Right guys, so tomorrow is a pretty important day. The Labour leadership announcement will be made and we'll know who's won. It should be Jeremy Corbyn by a pretty much landslide. His talks up and down the country for the last few months have been absolutely packed at every venue. He's had people outside the venues that couldn't get in, thousands of people every night, sometimes more than one conference a day for over 100 days, something like that, ridiculous. His support on the ground is unprecedented in this way, and it's good that the leader of the Labour, of the opposition, is picked like this by the party members overall and not just the parliamentary, the MPs in Labour, because Labour in the Parliament has become pretty corrupted, pretty infected by the Blairite kind of crew. Tony Blair took us into an illegal war. Gordon Brown sold all our gold. They did horrible things, the last Labour government, embarrassed the people that had supported them and celebrated their initial victories, Anyway, so Jeremy Corbyn on the ground is very, very well supported. And, anybody who actually looks into what he's saying, his policies, they can see that it's really sound. It's really based around a rebalancing of society, making sure that the rich and the corporations shoulder their fair share of things and going a little bit easier on the bottom rungs of society. But the barrage of criticism against Jeremy Corbyn in the mainstream media in this country has been amazing, unprecedented. Compare it to, the blanket opposition to Scottish independence. And this is another example of, or it's another time when you can really see how manipulated the English media is. There's a very small number of people right at the top of those trees of the media. A very small number of companies, very small number of people pulling the strings there and setting the agenda, trying to set the tone of British opinion. The media presents itself as the people's voice, as a manifestation of this country's ideas and thoughts, but it's not. The media is absolutely not that. The mainstream media is a very controlled entity or set of entities. Anyway, so yeah, but there's been blanket opposition to Corbyn, and it's getting more and more egregious. The accusations, the desperate barrel scraping to try and get some dirt on him. The guy is spotless so far. He's not had any legitimate dirt whatsoever. What they've tried to say about him has been embarrassingly desperate. Trying to link him to Holocaust deniers in some kind of way, that he should be thought of as this, or that even had those links. Trying to link him to terrorists implicitly, because he's been on rallies where he's talked about talking to each side in conflicts. This is democracy, this is diplomacy, this is diplomacy to actually communicate between two sides that are opposing. Things like Palestine, he's a big supporter of Palestine and bringing attention to the problems there. And when you actually do get to listen to the guy speak, it's quite obvious. The guy knows his stuff, he's on a level, and he's been singing the same tune for decades. He was famously, there's a clip of him arguing with Margaret Thatcher while she was still Prime Minister, so he's been there for a long time. He's a known entity, and the media was going out of their mind that he might win. Even supposedly, seemingly kind of left-leaning media, talking about the Guardian and the Independent, they're seen as left-wing. They're really not. Only in relation, they're left-wing only in relation to an entire political spectrum that has shifted quite a lot to the right. So you could say they're centre-left, but they're not. When it comes to certain agendas, they really fail. They really toe the line of this neocon agenda, the unholy trifecta of banks, oil and arms, which has hijacked this country a long time ago and which sets the agenda for the bigger picture. The Independent and the Guardian can come across as liberal and all that on social issues, but when it comes to things like this, slightly bigger, or not bigger issues, but issues that involve the powerful class, the political elite, the establishment, so-called, they have failed on occasion, and they're failing with Jeremy Corbyn. These kind of gloved and not so gloved digs at him But anyway, yeah, so there was the Panorama special, the BBC production, which originally was supposed to be an analysis of all the 4 major candidates. Turned out to be a blatant hit piece, hatchet job on Jeremy Corbyn. His involvement in that programme was solicited under the false pretence that it was about all 4 candidates. He's put in a complaint to the BBC that this Panorama programme was libelous, slanderous. It was absolutely terrible. So yeah, but really hope he gets in. Really hope they can't rig it, because you know the media did seem to be kind of desperately against him, and every day there was a new story trying to discredit him somehow, or talking about how he's just head in the clouds, politics, and all this business. But it's kind of quieted down the last couple of days, last few days, maybe even longer. It's quieting down a bit, and yeah, I'm just worried that they don't rig it, that they can't rig it. Can they do that? Probably can. I think they probably rigged the Scottish independence vote. So yeah, if it's at all accessible to them, they will. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But fingers crossed for Corbyn. He needs to be the leader of the opposition at the minute. You know, he's recently been in Parliament and asked David Cameron a question about the drone bombings of 2 British civilians in Syria, and you know, many legal issues around that. It's you know, David Cameron deciding that he can now summarily execute British citizens on foreign soil with no judicial process. Do you know how dangerous that is? And there is precedent for it. America's done it. We've been doing it quite a lot to citizens of other countries, but it gets even more close to home when he can declare the right to bomb and kill British citizens without judicial process and without any sensible argument that these people posed an imminent threat of attack to this country. Absolutely ridiculous. First of all, they were in Syria, so it was not that imminent. They'd have to get on a plane and come here first. Anyway, it's a massive mess. It's a real mess. And I really do think and hope that if Corbyn gets to be Labour leader, then we will at least have a conversation that includes the context that needs to be understood to get a grasp on what's going on with world politics at the minute. Because you don't get the full picture, big scope discussion with some of these other candidates. Yeah, it seems like a lot of Labour MPs have just got very comfortable in their seats, and they're scared because Jeremy Corbyn is a vocal critic of the war in Iraq and all that rest of it, and a lot of people that backed that movement, those wars and everything, yeah, they've got a lot to hide and a lot to be kind of worried about, because Blair should go to The Hague, and that is the will of the people. That is what most people in this country think, is that Tony Blair should go to the fucking Hague to answer for war crimes. And you know, the Chilcot inquiry is set up in order to do some kind of investigation into our role in the Iraq war. It was a mission that it needed looking into, but of course the Chilcot inquiry is rife with corruption, malfeasance, delays, pressure on it not to reveal quite what we need to be revealed, which is the truth of the situation that led us up to being involved with the Iraq invasion. You know, over half of the minutes of the meetings or the emails between George Bush and Tony Blair leading up to that decision have not been disclosed to the Chilcot inquiry, and that seems ridiculous. But anyway, I could go on and on because there are so many examples of the, you know, underhanded nature of how the establishment works. So this is what I'm saying. I'm worried that they might be able to rig it. I hope they can. If they don't, tomorrow should be a very good day indeed. But we shall see how it turns out. Okay, go Jeremy Corbyn.